Welcome to this explainer. Okay, we've absolutely all been there, right? You decide, that's it, I'm gonna learn Spanish. Or you finally commit to using that incredibly expensive gym membership. You buy all the new gear, you are just buzzing with energy, and you literally tell yourself in the mirror, this is it, I'm not quitting this time. And you know what? Those first few days, they're pure magic. But then, poof, the magic just vanishes. Well, today we're unpacking the alchemy of persistence, and we're gonna find out exactly where all that motivation actually goes. So, why do we always quit? It's the massive elephant in the room. Like, a week after that intense initial obsession, you just kinda stop caring. The joy completely evaporates, and suddenly your exciting new goal just feels like this massive chore. It's super frustrating, and honestly, it leaves us constantly wondering why we lose interest in things that we genuinely cared about just, a few days ago?
Think about day one. It's pure obsession. You're binge-watching a million tutorials, you're waking up at 5 a.m. just to get started. It's awesome. But by day 14, man, it's a heavy burden. Those $200 running shoes you bought are literally just staring at you from the closet, making you feel incredibly guilty. And naturally, we immediately turn inward. We think, is there something wrong with me? Am I just fundamentally incapable of sticking with anything?
Part 1. The excitement trap. To really answer why we quit, we've got to look under the hood at our neurological wiring. In the very beginning, everything is super exciting simply because it's novel. Our brains absolutely love novelty. And what happens is we end up mistaking a temporary chemical reaction for a permanent state of passion.
Dopamine. It's the chemical responsible for motivation and pleasure, and it's released heavily when starting something new. This is the core biological driver behind that day one obsession. Start a new hobby? Huge dopamine spike. Set a massive new goal? Dopamine. It's essentially your brain heavily rewarding you for engaging with the unknown, making you feel absolutely invincible. It's your brain's ultimate hype man.
But here's the catch. When you start a new hobby, your dopamine levels are sky high, like this explosive firework. But fast forward to practicing just 3 weeks later, and those levels are completely low. They drop off a cliff. And here's the thing. Dopamine is biologically designed to spike at the start. It is not meant to stay at that peak forever. Once a task becomes familiar to you, that chemical reward just drastically fades away.
It's not lost interest. The feeling just changed. Honestly, this is probably the most crucial takeaway here. You didn't stop loving the activity, the feeling just shifted. That chemical high wore off, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. Our biggest mistake, and the main reason we end up quitting, is mistaking this perfectly normal chemical drop for a genuine loss of passion. We totally panic and just assume, well, the excitement is gone, so it must be time to move on to the next thing.
Part 2. Hidden obstacles, fantasy versus reality. Now, brain chemistry is only half the battle here. We also run right into these psychological roadblocks that we unknowingly build for ourselves. And sometimes, the really hard truth is, we don't actually love the thing we started doing.
We just love the idea of it. The idea of success, talent, having it together, versus the reality, effort, repetition, struggle. We fall deeply in love with the fantasy of being successful, naturally talented, and effortlessly just having our lives together. But then reality kicks the door down. Real pursuits require brutal effort. They require endless repetition and serious struggle. So your brain hits that friction, realizes the fantasy was way more fun than the actual work, and slowly just disconnects.
Burnout disguised as boredom. This happens all the time. There's something even deeper hiding beneath our excuses. You might genuinely think you're just bored, but very often, it's actually burnout. When you go way too hard on day one, buying all the expensive gear, putting immense pressure on yourself, expecting overnight mastery, your brain eventually just shuts down. You didn't actually lose interest. Your brain just desperately needed a break from your unrealistic expectations.
Fear disguised as lost interest. Then there's the fear. Sometimes what we brush off as simply losing interest is actually a really deep subconscious terror of not being good enough. It's the fear of failing. It's that quiet, kind of terrifying realization that maybe, just maybe, you aren't as instantly capable as you thought you were when you enthusiastically started out.
It's not laziness, it's self-protection. Instead of forcing you to face the very real pain of failure, your brain actually performs a magic trick to protect your ego. It simply makes you lose interest. Think about it. If you convince yourself you just don't care anymore, you can't fail, right? You aren't fundamentally flawed. Your brain is quite literally shielding you from emotional disappointment.
Part 3.
the cheap dopamine problem. So we've looked at our internal wiring, but now we have to throw the modern world into the mix. We have a massive, massive external headwind working against our persistence today.
The distraction economy, short videos, quick entertainment, endless scrolling, instant rewards. We are literally swimming in this sea of hyperstimulation. These algorithms are perfectly engineered to flood your brain with fast, cheap dopamine. You just flick your thumb and boom, instant gratification. And the best part for your brain, zero effort required.
Real progress feels boring when your brain expects instant rewards. Because of all this constant overstimulation, working towards actual progress feels agonizingly boring. When you sit down to try and focus on a long-term goal, it feels totally unbearable. But it's so vital to realize this. The activity itself isn't boring. Your attention span has just been hijacked. Your brain is throwing a literal tantrum because it's not getting that instant, cheap reward it's become addicted to.
Part 4. Discipline over excitement. Okay, so how do we actually fix this? We have to fundamentally shift our mindset. We need to stop relying on fleeting motivation and start building something much sturdier.
Here is the game plan. Number 1, stop chasing motivation. It's temporary. It always will be. Focus on just showing up instead. Number 2, accept boredom. It is a mandatory part of literally any meaningful journey. Number 3, pace yourself. Seriously, don't try to sprint a marathon and burn yourself out in week 1. And number 4, be ruthlessly honest with yourself. Do you actually enjoy doing this, or just the idea of it? Answering that honestly changes absolutely everything. Losing interest means you are human. Listen, if you take anything away from this explainer today, please let it be this. Losing interest does not mean you are lazy. It does not mean you lack discipline. It just means you are human. You are experiencing the exact same biological and psychological shifts as literally everyone else on the planet.
Starting over, which means relying on excitement, versus succeeding, which means continuing when excitement fades. The real separator here is simply how you respond to that inevitable drop in excitement. People who constantly start over, they rely entirely on that initial thrill to carry them. But the people who actually succeed, they recognize the exact moment that thrill fades and they choose to keep going anyway.
Am I willing to continue without it? The next time you hit that wall, when the dopamine completely drops and you just really want to quit, don't ask yourself, why did I lose interest? That's totally the wrong question. Ask yourself, am I willing to continue without the excitement? Because if the answer is yes, well, that is where real progress actually begins. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I'd absolutely love to hear from you down below. What is one thing you lost interest in, but really wish you hadn't?